I can, when I look into our transaction logs, we have customers that send 6,000 to 7,000 scans per day. So that's if you develop software at a certain scale, that's what you get. But that is really a sign of your automation, degree of automation. If there's so much CI, then CI is continuously building for every commit, and this is not all that you require. I mean, in the end, from the management point of view, you still only have a handful of things that you need to look at, but you need to know which of these bills of materials is the one that I really have to push forward. And here, it's also essential to have the capability to have tagging capabilities that you not only push the stuff, but you have access to the tags and to the release information that you put to the repository, so that this goes into the tooling where you do the analysis. And then in this tooling, you can say, okay, this is the analysis that really applies. And that's a very essential part. I've actually not really seen much tools that are really supporting this, because otherwise with automation, you will easily run into a problem. So you've not been here while we've been discussing, so there was a lot of talk about SBOMs and what to do with it, but we were then thinking, okay, given we have sort of SBOM infrastructure, that's things that are not appearing in the code, own code. So as she said, Schneider-specific private code, then public code or module that is composed from Qt, which is an open source library, and some other open source libraries, and probably some little bit of glue code, and modules that I have, or libraries that I have developed by myself, consisting of all this, which I put into my own bill of material. This is what we have on the one hand side, and then we were thinking about what can we do with this to make it, to activate this information further. So not only to say, hey, this is what we have put in, but having a benefit from it. What is coming out of this when we activate this information? And the idea was to have actually threat models, because all these are components that will appear more or less in your threat model. So you can build a threat model from here instead of starting from scratch. People then just have to think about the boundaries, have just to think about the relations between these models, and it's much simpler to start working with threat modeling here. And also we can make weaknesses that are assigned to any of these components through CVEs. They can appear in this threat model, and therefore giving a different picture in judging what is actually the impact of this particular CVE when it's found. So it helps to run mitigations. And also we were talking about managing the technology portfolio, which is another idea, especially when you come from an architecture perspective and you want to have some harmonization in your product portfolio. So I don't know who's familiar with the Tech Radar. Tech Radar is a very simple concept. It's the idea of putting your tools and your components and everything into a circle. The circle can be split into tools, techniques, and things, so that you can have a bit ordered. So that assume the colors are sort of different aspects or different circles. You can even have a whole circle only for the blue one, another circle for the purple one. The idea is that you have also here you see different types of the same color. It gives you the way how you should address this software. So if something is on the outer circle, it's probably something that should be looked at, might be potentially something that you look at. What you have here is probably something that is to be adopted, and this is something that is used. And then you also can have another circle, for example, for retirement. So you can order and push technologies and components and libraries into a specific area. This is all can be done by tagging. And then you can see what kind of projects are in a particular situation that need to shift technology because they are running on technology which is about to be retired. Or they are running on technology which is totally new, so they have probably much higher risk. Yeah. This helps you a lot to manage your portfolio. These are ideas we are currently working on. So we really we gain a lot of information here with these SBOMs, and this is what we want to go, what we are going to do with it. Okay, according to the time, I don't want to bring the whole story of this automation thing, but there's a few takeaways you should have. The open chain working group is something that you should look at. This Cassie, how was her name? Cassie? Cassie Crossley. Yeah, she was mentioning it. There's already a long time about talking on SCA. And Open Chain has taken on this. It's a project work group, public, open, under the Linux Foundation, and it was focusing on trust within the software supply chain. How do I create trust? If someone is giving me something that I take in and I have put something outstream, how can I trust the guy here to have done a good job? Because as we already have learned, if the SBOM only contains half of the software that's inside, it's more a pain than help. Yeah. So I would have to scan actually everything that's coming up here. But given the guy would do a great job and I could trust him, I then could save this work, the scanning here, and just take his stuff and believe on what he's doing. And to create this, Open Chain Project created a set of requirements that an organization has to comply with to create a trustful output. They call it compliance artifact. These requirements are all outlined. They are even put into a framework where you say, how can I implement this in an organization? And meanwhile, it became an ISO standard you can certify your organization against. I don't want to go into all these details. I've been involved with a lot of these things. And the cool thing about it is that we took this and enhanced it now into security. So besides the specification on software compliance, there's also a specification on software security now, and it's currently on its path to become an ISO standard as well. So because we have so few, one more was required. But I think Linux Foundation likes to produce standards, and they have now opened up the new working group structure. Is the licensing, which has produced the ISO standard that I was just demonstrating. We have the security work group, which is releasing this first release version 1.1 on the security assurance. And there will be one more work group that is starting 15th of November or 18th, I'm not sure, on export control. So we get the procedures here as well. And then they are aligned in itself to give people a fast path to adoption. Yeah. There's a link here. You can you will find information if you're interested. You just join the work groups. There's no fee. There's nothing. You just can jump in and start working with them. One of the groups is the automation work group. The automation work group has built and developed a capability model. What is required if you want to automate all this? Because as you already saw and heard, it's a hell of things that need to be done, especially when you are talking about legacy. Because, I mean, when we start doing something structured today, doesn't mean that's applying for the past. So the past is unsorted, unordered, and still used. And to get this, you can scan and you will find the legacy. And then you require some sort of metadata repository that is able to assess the old stuff, to crunch it and to analyze it, to get understanding what's in there. How does it impact me? You need to manage third-party things and information that comes into this. You need this combined with the situation you want to use your software for. Because all this gives input on how to interpret policies and probably rules, what is then to do, so the next action. And this sometimes, when you're in a corporate organization, requires some sort of approval. and probably some sort of documentation, which then is taking all this information into a document. Given this all together, we came up with this capabilities. It has taken 2 years, I think. We were working with all kind of Siemens, Bosch, and all these guys. We've been working on getting this settled. So it has been released in September this year. And now we are talking and standardizing the communication, the minimum communication that's required between these elements. Because for all of these things, you find tools out there in the open world. But unfortunately, the tool is always built with a particular focus. And to complete the process, as Cassie was saying, they are doing a hell of manual work. There's and to make it easier, we are defining these standard interfaces. You can find all this under GitHub open source compliance sharing creates value. And there's now from the security working group another enhancement that is then putting the security part in here. And the Bitkom, the Deutsche, from the German Bitkom, the Deutsche Industrie, IT industry, they are running currently a tooling comparison on all these tools that are available on the open source area, and they use this as the background to verify these toolings. You can find this information under this. TrustSource, now let's start the marketing part. TrustSource is covering all this, almost all of this. We're not covering the snippet analysis for legal purposes, and we are not running a package archive. Package archive is a very good one called Software Heritage. It's something that's built by mainly by Google and some other sponsors. It's a European project run by an Italian professor, I think. Then there is ScanOSS, which is a very large repository of software or anything that has been published on the internet over the last 20 years. And this is fingerprinted. So when you scan with ScanOSS, it's querying this database. So you really find the things that you might have appeared already somewhere in the internet. And as I already mentioned, this sort of binary analysis is something where we still have a manual approach to understand what is in there. And this, as you see, it's a lot of pieces and bits and things that need to be combined. And if you add security on top, it's not getting less. So that's why we have actually developed and built TrustSource, which gives you all the tools at hand that you require to do this job. It starts even for managers. Software gets accessible because we have dashboards and you can drill down and see, oh, here's a component, there's something wrong. I go in there, and when you look at it, you can immediately drill down to the component that is currently not in the correct form. And this actually was the breakthrough for acceptance, because now where management attention is there, all project managers focus and they give the time to not appear there. So since we have this traffic light analogy, everybody in the company immediately can understand, oh, there's something right, look at it, drill down, see, okay, this is the component which is wrong. So these alert mechanisms, they are there. They're immediately active. You can give it a try. I mean, it's available. It's available under app.trustsource.io. You can start a trial anytime. The question that remains, what do we do now? From my point of view, every organization, and this is more focused on those that are really having software and getting it in the field, they should understand what is their goal in the game? How to address this challenge that's upcoming? I mean, I think it's pretty clear. We have a challenge here, and it needs to be addressed. And depending on your resources, you have to understand, will I do all this by myself? How much of it do I give into foreign hands? And what is my responsibility that I want to take? If I want to push this information about vulnerabilities and patches and things to my customers, I need to get and address this process. But how do I do this? Do I want to jump into and have all this tooling set up, have all these integrations done? Or how much of it can I hand over to someone? And this is where actually probably some sort of consulting is relevant. And it's very simple. We have quick assessment. We can help you to identify your goals. And we can also support you on the path to achieve them. It's not necessarily our solution. There are others on the way and available. So thank you for getting me done.
Thank you for being persistent as well. You know, that,
yeah. So feel free to ask questions. No, all asleep.
Congrats! I think it's a major work, and as we've seen, it's going to be necessary in any case. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think the European approach, not just putting an order on the table, leaving people to resolve, but asking for some responsibility is probably a good approach.
Okay.
I mean, it's a European.